For all you live listeners out there, we got a real treat for you. We're giving away a book tonight. We got a lot of great interviews from Value Voters Summit, and Gallo's in the house, and we're going to cause a ruckus. Here we go.
Get ready to fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines on WNJC.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo.
And you're now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, everybody? Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo here. Russ, good to have you back in studio this week.
Gene, you look a little shango. What's going on?
Oh, it's been a rough day, pal. I haven't been feeling well at all. I've been running ragged for the past 36 hours between local politics, work, and cutting up this audio that we got from the Value Voters Summit in Washington, D.C. that we traveled to just this past weekend. Me and the Vitos and Mona Salama, we hit the road, got some great audio. For those of you who may have seen on our website, www.behindenemylinesradio.us, that we had some good hits on some audio there, Russ.
I actually wasn't invited, believe it or not.
Well, you were working. So, you know, I didn't want to disturb the job, my friend. But, listen, we got some good stuff coming up. Stuff that you apparently missed. On today's show, we have Dr. Alveda King, the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King, Russ. Don't know if you know this. I'm trying to educate you now. Why are you laughing at me? Don't laugh. It's not. Never mock the host, man.
Don't I hold a position on this show where I would know the answer to that?
It's been a while.
All right.
It's been a while.
Double check, and I want to make sure I still retain that post.
We also have on the show Jason and David Benham, the Benham brothers, past guests of the show. Always a blast to check in with them.
Now, them I don't know. Who are they?
Oh, God.
Only
the guys that you post in pictures and stuff, you know. And then we have some audio from a impromptu press conference we did with Governor Mike Huckabee that we were a part of. Just a little bit of that. And then later on during the show, after you listen to the interview with Dr. Alveda King, we're giving away a copy of her book, King Rules. It's going to be actually a signed copy, Russ, that I personally witnessed her sign. And one of our lucky listeners is going to answer a trivia question and get the book.
And does the certificate of authenticity signed by one Mr. Gene Baradelli come along with it?
Already casting aspersions. I saw it happen.
All right.
I swear. Why would I make something up like that? Come on now. So listen, you haven't been around in a while. The show has suffered because of it. I want you to get us into it right now.
Where to begin, Mr. Gene?
There's so much.
I do want to talk about Russia, but let's start off right off the bat with na hey hey hey, goodbye, Speaker Man.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me.
No. What a crybaby, wishy-washy. I want to say so many other words, but I'm going to refrain from doing so. Are you not happy that this guy is gone?
Let me tell you something. When this actually happened, when we were down at Value Voters, and the mood of the place was shock and awe. I wouldn't say happy was the word. I think elated was the word, Russ. The man became an obstacle to, dare I say progress, but he became an obstacle to the Republican agenda in Congress because he was more worried about keeping his job than he was about doing his job, in my opinion.
There's so much to talk about here, and I know we have some time constraints, but I do want to touch on a bunch of areas of this subject. In the past we've actually said compromise is like a dirty word and whatever. I want to clarify some of that argument a little bit tonight. Compromise is not a bad thing in politics. However, John Boehner obviously does not even understand what the word means. And Mitch McConnell, I'm throwing you in there too, because you should not be the leader in the Senate at all. Senate majority.
You were right, majority leader. Don't ever doubt yourself, man.
I'm looking at my notes as I'm trying to.
I know,
into this
walking and chewing gum. I got it.
So, compromise. What we mean by compromise is that you don't compromise necessarily on your values before you even get to the table, and then you wind up passing something wishy-washy or not passing anything at all. What compromise means is simple. If you think about what the founders were afraid of, they were afraid of an overbearing federal government, which would mean that in order to pass a law, it would have to be something that the majority of the representatives of the people, right, and mind you, back then parties were not that strong, or factions as they call them, the majority of the representatives of the American people would have to agree. So there'd be controversial bills that would be passed. Anything that was overly controversial would need to be addressed by amending the Constitution.
And what Russ is talking about, guys, is you don't need to pass legislation to feel like you accomplished something. You accomplish something when you pass something that's on your agenda. There's a difference between just passing legislation for legislation's sake and passing that off as something that's an accomplishment versus getting something that actually is part of your goals because your goals are informed by your core beliefs. And that is what legislation used to be like before this modern day idea of compromise, which is more about pass something, not everybody gets a whole, everybody gets a little part, and nobody walks away happy. But the people that are hurt the most are the American people, once again.
Yeah, because the modern view of compromise is, like Gene is saying, go along to get along, let's get stuff passed. If I have to give up a little here to get a little something there, as long as we get the bill passed. But I want to look at some recent legislation that shows you the lack of compromise that I'm talking about. Obamacare passed without a single Republican vote. So now, fast forward, the Democrats lose control of Congress. What should rightfully happen to a piece of legislation that was passed without any support from the minority party at the time? Now that the minority party is in the majority, that piece of legislation would be overturned. So it's a non-enduring piece of legislation because there was no compromise and there was no bipartisan support. And I'm not saying that we should compromise on bills that are not popular. What I'm saying is, imagine how small government would truly be if we only passed laws on things that we agreed on between the parties. Would there be abortion funding for Planned Parenthood if we had to agree on it between both parties? No. And there should not be. And now that the Republicans have control of the House and Senate, they should pass a continuing resolution, a budget,
or a standalone bill.
A standalone bill or a budget or a continuing resolution that does not fund Planned Parenthood at all. That's the consequences of losing the majority when you pass legislation that is not popular. So I don't see what the problem is here. And if they pass any of the before mentioned ways to get something through Congress and it got to the president's desk, he would have to veto it. And if he vetoed a funding bill and the government was to shut down, then the president has shut down the government over the issue of abortion. But he doesn't control all three branches of government. I'm not even sure he's in control of the executive branch at this point anymore.
It's absolutely true. But I think this is what the next speaker has to get. Force the hand of the administration to say no instead of you going there and trying to get a little something done. You can always go back and do that later if you have to. But force the hand of the administration and put the onus on them for being a blockade to what the will of the people is. Be the will of the people. Be the will of the people who put you in office. Now, while we were there at Value Voters, the discussion was who's going to be there to take his place. That and how much a tanning bed's price is going to go up in Washington, D.C. But I digress. So the two names that Congressman Louis Gohmert mentioned to me in one of our interviews that is uploaded right now on www.behindthemirlinesradio.us is that Kevin McCarthy of California, I believe it is, or Daniel Webster of Florida are the top two names that were on the first night floated around throughout the halls of power in Washington, D.C. I don't know if anybody would be happy with Kevin McCarthy. Mainly because he's less conservative than John Boehner. Come on, people. The only saving grace that Kevin McCarthy would have is that he would have more of the ear of the younger, junior, more conservative members of Congress, and maybe you might get a little more done. I don't buy it. To me, it's Staten Island, Russ. And you know what I mean by it's Staten Island? The Staten Island Republican Party here in the People's Republic of New York City, they have a pecking order. They have a line. When one falls down, the other steps up. And it goes according to plan. Kevin McCarthy is Congress going according to plan, regardless of whatever Boehner does or doesn't do. Pecking orders do not equal real work in Congress.
I'll tell you who my two picks are for Speaker of the House.
Can I guess?
Go ahead.
I might be able to guess.
Let's see.
Guess number 1, Trey Gowdy.
He's actually number 3 for me.
Oh, really? Okay, so then I'm not going to say Pete King.
Pete King, I hope, loses. I don't even care if a Democrat wins that seat. Look him up. He's a Long Island congressman, rhino, basically Democrat.
It's called sarcasm, pal.
I'm making sure our listeners know who Pete King is. Pete King's a piece of trash.
So, how about Mia Love? Is that one of the
His
two?
fake New England accent or whatever he's got. You got me riled up with King now.
Sorry about that. Is Mia Love one of them?
No, let me tell
All
you.
right, tell me
you're
the
never
two.
going to be able to guess.
Tell me the two.
Number 1, Ted Cruz. Before you say anything,
No.
go ahead.
I know the nuance, but you tell everybody.
Good. We'll say that after. Or Donald Trump. One or the other. Before you people laugh at me or think I'm drunk, you don't need to be a member of the House of Representatives. This debate has actually gone on in our inner circle for a few years. And it's true. Read the Constitution. There's no qualification that you actually be in the House of Representatives to be the Speaker of the House. And I want an outsider. I can't imagine McCarthy doing any better than Boehner. And to be honest with you, I am part of the... I don't want to say Trump fans necessarily. You know what? I will say Trump fan. I'm not a Trump supporter per se, but I'm a Trump fan. I am sick and tired of the political insiders. I don't trust people who have to win elections to make their money. And at the end of the day, I can't see anyone who has to survive in Washington being a Speaker of the House that's going to put things on the table that need to be put on there. Namely, repealing Obamacare, defunding Planned Parenthood, gay marriage or amending the Constitution to put traditional marriage back in, stopping women in combat, and a whole host of other issues that need to be addressed, and need to be addressed soon. We teased it earlier, but I mean, Russia is basically invading Syria.
Yeah. You know what? Like I said, I've been kind of down for most of the day. What is this all about? There's airstrikes going on right now in Syria?
So John Kerry... I think you all know who John Kerry is. He's like a Herman Munster-looking guy, Secretary of State, ran for president, I believe.
All of a sudden, I have a Fall Out Boy song stuck in my head, but go ahead.
So John Kerry and Barack Obama have been running around, by the way, for years. There's a clip out there that I was watching on the news earlier today of Mitt Romney during one of the debates where he was asked, what's the greatest threat to American national security? And he said, Russia.
And everybody laughed at him.
And in 2012, Barack Obama belittled him and said that the 1980s called and they want their foreign policy back.
Well, guess what? Everything that is old is new again, Russ.
New again. So you got Barack Obama. Don't forget Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama with the reset button when they first got elected. Don't forget that.
Oh, was that the time when they tried to say reset, but they said something else and they were made to look very foolish? I seem to remember that clip on one of our past shows.
Very foolish. So you got the administration now. You got Kerry running around in Barack Obama these past few days trying to make sure everybody stays calm. The Russians are, we're working with them, we're talking with them. Then it comes out today that Russia basically, they sent a general to the American embassy in Iraq with an urgent message that said, pull all American fighter planes out of Syrian airspace and basically hunker down your troops wherever they are.